You are running a perfectly ordinary country, and things are actually going rather well. Your economy is growing, your cities are getting richer, your companies are finally selling products abroad, and for a while this feels like success. Then a larger country blocks one of your deals, another threatens an important shipping route, and a third reminds your banks that the international financial system follows rules you did not write. Suddenly, being richer does not feel quite the same as being powerful, so you make a new plan. You are going to turn your perfectly ordinary country into a superpower. The obvious place to start is the economy, because if your country does not produce very much, nobody has much reason to care what you want. But a powerful economy is not just a giant pile of money sitting in a vault. You need products that the rest of the world actually wants to buy, factories capable of making those products at enormous scale, workers productive enough to compete, and roads, railways, ports and electricity systems that keep everything moving. This is the first slightly disappointing discovery of your superpower project. Before aircraft carriers, intelligence agencies and dramatic summit meetings, you need an extremely good freight network. Power begins with boring infrastructure, and once that infrastructure works, your factories grow, exports rise and your economy becomes much more important. Unfortunately, factories are hungry. Steel mills need iron and coal, semiconductor plants need specialized minerals and chemicals, the electrical grid needs fuel, uranium, wind, sunlight or some combination of all of them, and your population would also appreciate having food. Some of those resources exist inside your borders, but many probably do not, which means the bigger your economy becomes, the more resources you start buying from other countries. Now the factories that were supposed to make you powerful have created another problem. Your prosperity depends on suppliers you do not control. So you begin securing energy. You sign long-term agreements with exporters, build strategic reserves, purchase from several suppliers instead of depending on one, construct pipelines that avoid dangerous territory, and invest in domestic power generation whenever possible. This makes your economy safer, but it also means that energy policy has quietly become foreign policy. Oil fields now come with flags attached to them, pipelines cross borders controlled by governments with their own interests, and a supply contract that looked like a boring commercial document suddenly becomes strategically important. Once your factories are running and your power supply is reasonably secure, you need customers, lots of them, because enormous industrial systems are much easier to maintain when the entire world is buying what they produce. Your companies expand abroad, cargo ships leave your ports, trade routes stretch across oceans, and before long those shipping lanes start looking less like lines on a map and more like arteries feeding your economy. Then you notice something uncomfortable. A huge percentage of your trade may pass through a handful of narrow straits, canals and ports. A canal thousands of kilometers away can suddenly delay your factories, and a port you had never heard of 10 years earlier can become important enough to appear in national security meetings. Congratulations, you have discovered geography. At first you could simply hope that everyone leaves your ships alone, which is a surprisingly common strategy right up until somebody does not. Eventually, hope needs an escort, so you buy a navy. Then you discover that navies need ports, ports need fuel, repair yards and ammunition, ships operating far from home need places to refuel, and those foreign harbors are controlled by foreign governments. Your trade problem has now become an alliance problem, and your navy has also discovered that the ocean is extremely large. Protecting shipping is only one military responsibility. You still have borders, airspace, and critical infrastructure at home, while your growing network of partners and overseas interests creates new responsibilities abroad. Every commitment needs forces behind it. Forces need training, training requires equipment, equipment requires maintenance, and maintenance requires money every single year. This is another important lesson in becoming a superpower. Military power is not a one-time purchase, it is a subscription, except instead of canceling an entertainment service you are trying to maintain ships, aircraft, bases, satellites, ammunition and tens of thousands of highly trained people. Money can purchase equipment, but it cannot instantly purchase technological leadership. For that you need scientists, universities, research laboratories, innovative companies and factories capable of turning prototypes into millions of reliable products. You also need supply chains that cannot be easily disrupted, because advanced military systems are usually just advanced civilian industries wearing uniforms. Semiconductor manufacturing becomes national security, aerospace engineering becomes national security, communications become national security, software becomes national security, and suddenly the ministry responsible for technology is sitting in the same meetings as the ministries responsible for defense and foreign affairs. There is another resource you cannot simply order from a warehouse: talent. You need engineers who can build complicated machines, managers who can coordinate enormous systems, diplomats who understand other governments, officers who understand logistics as well as warfare, and entrepreneurs who recognize opportunities before committees finish discussing them. You can educate more of your own population, but that takes time, so you may also start attracting skilled foreigners. Now immigration policy has joined energy, trade, technology, and shipping inside your superpower project, because every time you solve one problem, another part of government somehow becomes involved. Eventually your economy becomes large, sophisticated, and deeply connected to the world, but foreign companies may still be settling transactions through someone else's financial system. That gives the country at the center of that system considerable influence, and naturally, you would prefer some of that influence for yourself. So you deepen your financial markets, build liquid bond markets, strengthen banks, make it easier for foreigners to hold your currency, and try to create courts and rules investors actually trust. This part is important because international currencies are not created by speeches declaring that your currency deserves respect. They become powerful when millions of companies, banks, investors, and governments voluntarily decide that using them is convenient. Financial power is basically popularity with an enormous amount of paperwork. By now you have money, industry, technology, and military reach, and you could attempt to manage everything alone. This is technically possible in roughly the same way that carrying a sofa upstairs alone is technically possible. It is much easier with help, so you build alliances. Allies can share intelligence, host bases, purchase your equipment, protect nearby trade routes, and support you inside international institutions. They can also disagree with you, refuse your requests, and occasionally make your life extremely frustrating, but even an annoying ally is usually much cheaper than occupying their country yourself. Military strength can make other countries notice you, but institutions can persuade them to organize around you. So you sponsor international organizations, help write technical standards, finance infrastructure, offer loans, open universities to foreign students, and spread your culture through entertainment, education, technology, and business. Eventually other countries may begin using parts of your system voluntarily, which is an extremely efficient form of influence. Convincing another country to adopt your standards is generally cheaper than parking an aircraft carrier outside its harbor. There is, however, one small problem with becoming increasingly influential: everyone else can see what you are doing. Your new military base may look defensive from your side of the border, but from your rival's side it looks suspiciously like a military base pointed directly at them. They respond by building more weapons, so you strengthen your defenses, then they seek allies, so you strengthen your alliances, and soon both sides are spending enormous amounts of money responding to actions each side insists were defensive. Congratulations, you have discovered the security dilemma. History provides several versions of this story. Britain built one of the great early modern systems of global power. Industrialization gave it tremendous productive capacity. British merchants traded across the world, the Royal Navy protected strategic routes, London became a major financial center, and sterling traveled alongside British commerce. For a time, the combination was extraordinary, but maintaining global commitments was expensive, and eventually other industrial powers began catching up. Britain remained powerful, but the gap narrowed, because being the first country to build a powerful system does not mean nobody else can learn how it works. The United States later assembled many of the same ingredients on a much larger scale. A continental economy provided enormous agricultural, industrial, and resource capacity. 2 oceans created useful geographic protection, wartime production expanded at remarkable speed, and after the Second World War much of America's industrial base remained intact while many other major economies were rebuilding. The United States developed alliances across Europe and Asia, the dollar became central to international finance, American companies spread products and technology throughout the world, and overseas bases extended military reach far beyond the mainland. At that point the superpower was no longer simply a country, it was a network connecting industry, finance, technology, trade, alliances, and military power. The Soviet Union built a different version of power. It possessed enormous military strength, major scientific capabilities, nuclear weapons, rockets, and heavy industry, but global competition required more than military capacity alone. Maintaining military forces, technology, industrial production, and international commitments simultaneously was brutally expensive, and when the economic foundation weakened, strategic choices became harder to sustain. Modern rising powers can study both experiences and reach an obvious conclusion: They want industrial scale without catastrophic overextension, technological strength without complete dependence on foreign suppliers, and international influence without agreeing to pay for every crisis on Earth. The difficulty is that everybody else is studying the same history too. If your plan works, eventually you finally look like a superpower. Your ships operate across several oceans, your companies sell around the world, your currency is widely used, and your allies call whenever something goes wrong. Your rivals also call, usually because they would like to complain about something you are doing. Then the bills arrive. Bases get old, ships need replacing, technology becomes obsolete, allies want reassurance, military planners want readiness, companies want open markets, security agencies want tighter controls, and voters at home would quite reasonably like hospitals, pensions, infrastructure, and lower taxes. Your finance ministry is now sitting in the middle of all of them wondering why everybody's solution involves spending more money. This is the part that beautiful maps of global power usually leave out. Power is not something a country wins once and keeps forever, it is a system that must be maintained continuously. Lose your economic base and military power becomes harder to finance. Lose your technological advantage and your forces become easier to challenge. Lose your allies and every problem becomes more expensive to solve alone. Lose trust in your financial system and some of your economic leverage disappears. Push rivals too aggressively, and they may cooperate against you. Spend too little and your promises stop looking credible. Spend too much and you weaken the economy supporting the entire structure. That is the superpower paradox. The stronger you become, the more interests, trade routes, technologies, alliances and institutions you have to protect, and the more things you protect, the more resources your power consumes. Becoming a superpower, therefore, is not really about becoming unbeatable, because no country is. It is about constructing a system resilient enough to survive pressure, an economy that keeps producing, a society that continues inventing, allies that still answer the phone, institutions people still trust, financial markets people still want to use, and enough military strength to protect the arrangement without bankrupting the economy underneath it. If you can keep all of those pieces working at the same time, congratulations, you have done it, you are a superpower. Now comes the difficult part, staying one.